You know how it is. You have a big empty space in your yard and you want to fill it up with plants. You probably want something that's strong, carefree, and beautiful. But those very same plants can sometimes become thugs in the garden, reseeding too freely, spreading by their roots voraciously, or they might even do both. Now, a lot of people might call those plants invasive plants, but I prefer the term aggressive plants because a lot of them are actually native plants. Let's first talk about some of the non-native plants. This is a Japanese anemone. I like to grow them because they begin blooming in mid to late summer and will continue right through the frost. Plus they have this attractive foliage. But they spread themselves around with underground runners. And even though that's nice in the way that it'll form colonies and it's good if you've got a shaded area you want to fill up, they can really be way too aggressive for your garden. And some varieties, it's important to know, are more aggressive, more likely to behave that way than others. This is definitely one of the ones that's aggressive. This is a variety called robustissima, and that means the most robust, and it certainly is. Now, when I planted this here, I tried to corral it with edging, and that often works with things that have rhizomes or stolons that spread about. You can sink some edging in there, get it nice and deep, and it'll contain them, or at least slow them down. Well, in this case, I only used 4-inch edging. I should have used deeper edging, and I probably should have used a metal edging and planted it closer to the surface of the ground. In any case, even that might not have stopped this plant from jumping out and spreading all over my bed. A lot of people know that the common orange daylily, the ditch lily, can actually spread aggressively from underground runners or stolons. But it's not the only daylily that can overwhelm your garden. This is its close cousin. It's a double flowering variety, Hemerocallis fulva quanzo. And this one will also spread very aggressively. Now, it is pretty. It blooms quite a few weeks later than the ditch lily, so it's nice for late season color. I think its orange blooms are beautiful, and it's ideal for mass plantings. But if you're going to put something like this in your garden, you either need to make sure you give it a whole lot of room or go ahead and plan to spend a whole lot of time digging it up. These are touch-me-nots, or Bossman Patience, and I grew up growing these with my mother in her flower beds. I really was delighted as a child by these seed pods. They're called touch-me-nots because when you touch the seed pods, they pop and the seeds go everywhere. Well, that's the thing. The seeds get flung far and wide. So every year I spend a bunch of time pulling out hundreds of seedlings from this plant. Now, I don't mind that so much because at least it's easy to do, but keep that in mind if you want to grow it. This is a 4 o'clock, and they're called that because the blooms open in late afternoon and they won't close again until the following morning. They're very fragrant and they attract hummingbirds, butterflies, and moths. But they do throw their seeds around very freely, and when they do that, they can quickly overwhelm your whole flower bed. Plus, those thick, fleshy tubers are really tough to dig out. So if that's not your cup of tea, you may want to think twice about planting these. Now, it is possible to grow these in a container, but it would have to be a very, very large one to accommodate their huge roots. Now let's talk about a few native plants that can grow aggressively in your garden. This is Virginia Spiderwort, and it's gorgeous in a woodland setting, but it spreads by seeds and by stolons. They get kind of messy looking in the summer months, so you can cut them back to a leaf node, and then also that helps reduce the amount of seeds. Another thing you can do to help reduce their spread is to divide these mature clumps frequently. That kind of slows them down a little bit. But it is a plant that you really need to take care with when you find seedlings. If you don't want them where they are, dig them up immediately, because these mature plants, those roots are very difficult to dig out. This is Cutleaf Coneflower, or Rudbeckia laciniata. It really naturally loves to grow in floodplains. So the regular irrigation of a garden suits it just fine, but it reseeds everywhere. The seeds will be thrown as far as 20 feet away, and it also spreads by aggressive rhizomes. So this is not a plant you'd want to put in a formal garden or somewhere where you have nice, neat beds. It will literally double in size, this clump, from season to season. But I have found that if you put it in less than ideal conditions, somewhere really dry, that will actually help keep the plant more compact. Unfortunately, Rudbeckia laciniata isn't the only Rudbeckia on my list. This is Blackeyed Susan, Rudbeckia hirta. And For my part, in my garden, which is a little more informal, I don't find them overly aggressive, but they do reseed everywhere. The good thing is about these guys, they're very easy to pull up. But I will say that I can often have 2 full seasons of bloom from these, because these guys will bloom in early summer, they'll set seeds, the seedlings will come up and bloom into late fall up to frost. But again, if you don't like pulling up a lot of volunteers, or you don't want them to spread themselves around, maybe not the right plant for you. Another Rudbeckia that would be on my list is Rudbeckia triloba, the brown-eyed Susan, a close cousin of these guys. But it's a short-lived perennial, and the problem with it is when you let it grow on and become mature, it's much harder to pull out those roots. It is good though if you have less formal or naturalized areas in your property. This is Maximilian sunflower, Helianthus maximiliani, and it's able to spread both by its seeds and its rhizomes very aggressively. In fact, all the native sunflowers are very aggressive spreaders. Unfortunately, I didn't know that when I planted this one here. So one thing I have learned is you can sometimes corral these a little bit by trenching in some deep edging around them, and that will slow them down. But you really do need to use a deep edging, and that'll buy you some time to deal with it and figure out where you can put it that it won't take over your whole garden. But keep in mind, even if you do that, these will reseed themselves outside the edging. Now, many people know that goldenrods can be very aggressive in a garden setting, especially the Canada goldenrod and the tall goldenrod. There's about 150 species in the genus, and they will spread very aggressively from their rhizomes. But they are really, really good for pollinators and for wildlife, so they're a good plant to grow. But what you need to do first is do a little bit of research and find a cultivar that's less aggressive. And believe it or not, there are some. I grow Solidago rugosa fireworks here, and that's actually a cultivar that was collected in the Carolinas. And it does spread, but it spreads a lot more slowly, far less aggressively than its cousins, and it gives you plenty of time to dig it up and spread it around. And it's just a really great plant. But there are others, so do a little research. Now, I don't want you to get the impression you shouldn't plant native plants. You should. They're wonderful for our pollinators. They benefit birds, insects, everything that's natural here benefits from native plants. But if you're going to plant something new in your garden, whether it's native or not, it pays to do a little research first and figure out if it's aggressive or not. If you love gardening, you'll want to subscribe to this channel. Home garden tours, tips from growers, and lots of plants. Until next time.